Ana. I'm originally from Argentina. I'm part of the Master of Public Administration in International Development here at HKS. I'm a second-year student. So I have two questions that you must imagine. The first one is, like many journalists and economists in Argentina, attributes that the current situation in the country is heavily influenced by you and your relationship with Martin Guzman. So what would you say to that? And the second question that I have, it is, what should be done in order first to fix in the short term the current situation of the country and then to avoid a new crisis? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to
Okay, let me give, for those who haven't followed Martin Guzman did a postdoc with me at Columbia, and he's now the Minister of Economy. He went from being a postdoc to being in charge of our postdoc program, and went directly from there to being the Minister of Economy of
postdoc program, Argentina. Yeah.
And I like to think that he's been partly successful because of good training in economics. So, but Argentina has been through a number of difficult periods. One of them was that in 2018, let me go back a little bit. They elected a president in 2015, Macri, who was a devotee of free markets and did a lot of liberalization. Markets trusted him because he said the right things. He didn't do the right things, but he said the right things. And a lot of money went into Argentina. And then when he failed to produce growth and inflation remained high, people lost confidence, and people started taking out their money. And he went to the IMF and asked for some money. When I say some money, a lot of money by anybody's terms. And the IMF gave him something like, said, we will give you 54 billion, not million, but not trillion. So it's not 54 billion, and they dispersed 44 billion. But it was, in my judgment, a politically motivated loan to keep Macri in office. And they didn't put any conditions on that loan. And particular conditions that the money couldn't be used to finance people to take their money out of Argentina. So 44 billion went into Argentina, and 44 billion went out of Argentina of wealthy people taking their money out of the country. Meaning that after they took their money out of the country, Argentina owed the IMF 44 billion, plus the money that they had borrowed from the private sector, which was another $100 billion. When I had gone down at the beginning to Argentina at the beginning of Macri's regime and met with the central bank, one of the things that people said was, you know, we have a lot of mess, but the one thing that we're happy about is we've inherited very little debt because the debt had been restructured. And they managed in 3 years, believe it, you know, to get about $150 billion of foreign indebtedness. Well, so the great achievement was just last Friday. They succeeded in doing a deal with the IMF, and it's the first IMF deal that does not have austerity as part of it. And I think part of the reason for that was they had a new head of the IMF who was an economist who understood that austerity doesn't lead to growth, it leads to decline and makes it more difficult to pay back, so even the creditors are worse off. And an IMF that was worried about climate change and worried about poverty. So that was, you know, it's a favorable leadership. But Martin was in a position of actually doing the economic analysis, and this is why it's really, for a public policy school, he understood what debt sustainability analysis ought to be, and why when you do a debt sustainability analysis, these are technical issues, but the growth rates are endogenous, all the parts that go into the debt sustainability analysis are endogenous, and you have to model those, and that had not been done before. So having somebody on the other side being able to explain to the IMF and to the private creditors, this is how you ought to be doing it. I know you haven't done it this way ever before, but this is the way you ought to do it. And they couldn't answer, they couldn't come back and say, no, you're wrong, because he was right. And so I think that had a very big effect on the success in being able to restructure the debt. Now, one of the things,
I think we should
I
just
could
in
go
the interest
on.
of getting
Okay.
other, yes. Hopefully that was what I took away from that is macroeconomics is hard. You sir, please go ahead with your question.